What up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Des Talks podcast, coming to you live for this beautiful Friday afternoon. Hope you guys are enjoying your afternoon as much as I am. And before we get started with the newest topic that we are going to discuss, that includes a video game that I wish to God they cancel it and just move on with our lives, and that is The Last of Us Part 3. Now, before we continue on with that ridiculous topic in hand, before we get started, guys, please do me a big favor. Please follow me on social media at DesiDOfficial. That is on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you guys go follow me over there. I have a YouTube channel as well. That is DesiDTV. Make sure you guys go subscribe to that channel and tap on that bell for all notifications. So we are talking about The Last of Us Part 3, a video game that I hope to God that does not get greenlit or anything that is stupid. I do not want it, ladies and gentlemen. I do not want it. Now, I'm going to make this very clear to everybody. I'm a huge fan of the game, okay? I love The Last of Us TV show that is currently on HBO Max. I love it so much that they currently they're working on their newest episode. I haven't caught up just yet. I just watched episode 4 about last week. Yeah, last week I just finished episode 4. And the only reason why I finished episode 4 is because episode 3 was so emotional. I took a major break from it. It took me like 2 to 3 weeks to finally get to episode 4. So I finally got episode 4 done. So I'm about to work on 5, 6, and then maybe others down the line. But we're not here to talk about that right now. We're here to talk about The Last of Us Part 3 that it's reportedly working on. Now, according to IGN.com, this right here was updated last year. Well, not last year. It was 2 years ago, around April, that they said Last of Us Part 3 has a plot, but it's not being made yet. This is the first thing that they said from 2 years ago. I'm just going to go over here, talk about that, and then I'm going to talk about what they said 2 months ago. So Naughty Dog has written a story outline for The Last of Us Part 3. This is what they said on IGN.com. But is it making the sequel right now? Creative director Neil Drunkmann says he hopes it can one day see the light of day. Speaking on an episode of the Script Apart podcast about the writing of The Last of Us Part 2, which was garbage, Drunkmann touched briefly on the possibility of a sequel. He says this, and I quote, "I don't know how much I want to reveal." Co-writer Haley Gross and I they wrote a outline for the story that we're not making, but I hope one day can see the light of day that explores a little bit what's happening after the game. We'll see. He goes on by saying this. Drunkmann says there has been quite a bit of discussions internally about a part 3, but pointed out how much work it is involved in making a game like this a reality. These games take so much to make, according to part 2. I've been thinking about it for 7 years between when the last game came out and when this came out. You want to make sure you jazzed by the idea that you have, that it feels like it's challenging. We now had 2 games that I feel speak to something universal, as well as telling a very personal story for these characters. With 1 game, there's no pattern of what a franchise is. With 2 games, now they're starting to become a pattern. Now I feel like there are some structural and thematic themes you have to stick to if you're making a 3rd game. So it seems like that Naughty Dog is currently exploring what to do next after we finish one of our big titles. Drunkmann explained, "We take a long time to explore different ideas, whether it's going to be Last of Us 3, whether it's something new, whether there's some old franchise we want to go back to. I like to fully explore all of those. Then look at okay, we have all of these ideas in front of us. As a studio, what do we want to commit to? Because it's a huge commitment. Monetary, time, passion, and talent. So you think about all the opportunities cost that come with that." End quote. And there's many more stuff going on, and I really don't care to read to. So they really, at the time when I first saw this, They basically didn't have any plans yet. They're still talking about for the story and ideas for Last of Us Part 3, which honestly, I don't know why this game is even coming out. Or they even in talks of trying to make. We all know that Last of Us Part 2 was basically trash. Everybody knows that Last of Us Part 1 was the best game ever. It took me so long to finish the game, but it was so good. This game was so freaking good that it makes no sense. Then Part 2 come, I'm thinking there's going to be a good one as well. The graphics were great, but the story of it was trash. How did Joel immediately die off the game? We didn't even get a chance to marinate the fact that they have him in the game long enough. It was mostly about Ellie and Joel. Then they put in Abby. They had Abby kill Joel in the beginning, and then afterwards they gave us a whole full-fledged story on Abby's side of things as to why she did what she did, basically trying to make us feel sympathy for her when in reality we have no sympathy towards her. And the fact that they're even trying to do that type of stuff is so irritating. They're trying to make us care about a woman that killed off our favorite character. This is what I'm afraid of with the actual TV show. Because don't get me wrong, I love the TV show. But mind you, the TV show has now been greenlit for season 2 on HBO Max. So if it's been greenlit by season 2 on HBO Max, that basically shows that they probably... No, not probably. They're actually going to get to kill Joel off the show. Which I hope and pray that they don't, but I know it's eventually going to happen. And the same way they diverse away from the game in this show, I hope they do a diverse away from the game in season 2. Give us Abby's backstory first. Then when it's time for the situation to happen, then you can kill Joel. That would have made more sense in the video game, but the writers didn't do it. The writers did not do that, which is honestly stupid. Ellie came out of that video game with nothing. No girlfriend, because Dina left. No Joe. No fingers, to be honest with you. She cut off a couple of her fingers because during the fight with Abby. She just left with nothing. She left with absolutely nothing. We're supposed to feel sympathy for Abby, but hate Ellie. That is something that I don't understand about this game. And the fact that they're even working on a part 3, it really low-key pisses me off because you're basically saying, oh, because some people like it, but majority of the fans don't like it, we're still going to do part 3, trying to figure out what we're going to do. So, what are you going to do? Is this going to be after part 2? Is this going to be like a prelude to the first part? Because let's just be real. This should not happen. In a lot of YouTubers' eyes, for those who have seen, those who have played part 2, they just simply don't give a shit about part 2. After the game, they say, you know what? This was the worst game ever. Because in a lot of YouTubers' eyes, including mine, the best ending was part 1. The best ending ever was part 1. Point blank period. And I don't give a damn about what a lot of people say. I'm like, oh, Abby deserved to kill Joe. Joe did this and Joe did that. He did what he did in part 1 because he cared for Ellie. When you're starting to grow with that person, you really gotten to know that person better, and you share a bond with that person, of course you don't want them to, you don't want to get rid of them. Who doesn't? Who does want to get rid of somebody after you had a great bond with them? That's stupid. That's absolutely stupid. So yes, I don't blame Joel for what he did. I do not blame him whatsoever. Now, from what happened from 2 months ago, Polygon.com had just released this. The Last of Us Part 3 might not happen, according to Naughty Dog's Neil Drunkmann. Mind you, he was the writer for Part 2. He was the writer for Part 2, ladies and gentlemen. So he knows that he has his his thoughts where it may not happen. It may not happen. And let me take that back. He wasn't right. He was basically the creative director. But either way, this game should not happen. I'm gonna read to you guys the story of what they said on Polygon.com. This is what they said. HBO's adaptations of Last of Us is just ramping up. But that hasn't stopped fans from being excited from where the video game series could go next after 2018's Last of Us Part 2, which I don't know why fans are even excited about that game. During his press tour for the show, game series creative director and HBO show co-creator Neil Drunkmann updated everyone on the status of Part 3 and the fact that it might not happen at all. In an interview with BuzzFeed, Drunkmann said that Naughty Dog hasn't made a decision yet about what's next for the main line of the Last of Us series, and it doesn't feel pressure to either. He said this: "We're very privileged that our publisher is Sony," Drunkmann said. "They have supported us every step of the way to follow our passion, meaning that just because something is successful, people think there's all the pressure and we have to make a sequel. That's not the case for us. Uncharted was insanely successful. Uncharted 4 was one of our best-selling games. Yeah, because it was the best game ever and had a great story. Duh. And we're able to we're able to put our final brushstroke on that story and say that we're done. We're moving on. Likewise with The Last of Us. It's up to us whether we want to continue or not." And it goes on by saying this: "That doesn't mean the series is done for sure, though. According to Drunkmann, the team is batting stories, ideas back and forth all the time in hopes that something sticks. But until they have the perfect one, we shouldn't expect another entry in the franchise. Our process is the same. It's the same thing we did in Part 2. Drunkmann said that to BuzzFeed which is if we can come up with a compelling story that has this universal message and statement about love, just like the first and second game did, then we will tell that story. If we can't come up with something, we have a very strong ending with Part 2, and that will be the end." End quote. Whatever happens next with the Last of Us game, Drunkmann has at least made it clear that it will be a while before the numbered entry, if it happened at all. Until then, Naughty Dog is currently working on a Last of Us multiplayer spin-off and hasn't officially said what its next big single-player project will be. End quote. They shouldn't even come up with ideas whatsoever. There's no ideas. Because think about it, what idea you want to talk about when the story involves like love and all this other bullshit that you're saying? Part 2 ain't had shit to do with love. It ain't had shit to do with love. He want to send this universal message and statement about love. The second game had nothing to do about love. The first one, yes, but not this. This is not love. Ellie didn't get no love from this. This girl damn near had post-traumatic stress disorder just seeing Joel. And when she was about to kill Abby, she had reflections of Joe sitting there playing the guitar and said, "Oh, no, never mind. I gotta forgive you. Just go on." Like, no. And I can't believe what I'm about to say because I love Ellie. I even love the character who plays Ellie on the TV show. But on the video game in Part 2, they made Ellie like a bitch. They made Ellie a bitch. They basically just made Ellie a pussy. How you become what you got in between your legs? How, Sway? It's already bad enough we can't stand Abby. Now we sitting there looking at Ellie like, what the hell are you doing? You lost everything for nothing. She didn't receive nothing in return. And you want us to feel bad for Abby and show a little sympathy, like, oh, I feel Abby, I understand how she feels and this and that and yada yada. Man, bump all that bullshit, okay? Bump all of that. Nobody gives a fuck about Abby at this point. Fuck her. Okay? There was a lot of people that didn't really play the game because there was leaks of the story came out before the game came out. So we basically just lost this, like, for those who actually saved, that actually saw the story leaks, y'all save yourself some money. Y'all save yourself some money because don't nobody give a fuck about this game. And the fact that there is some fan base out there that's sitting there saying, oh, part 3 needs to happen. Please make part 3, bro. Please make part 3. Please, please, please. I want to see the story. I want to know what's going on with Ellie. I want to know what's going on with Abby. Are we going to get an Abby story? We need to have something. No! That's stupid as fuck. You making a whole game about Abby? Hell no. Was it about Abby in Last of Us Part 1? No. So why the hell you put Abby in and you basically fucked up her character? If you had gave this is the stuff I don't understand. If Neil Drunkmann actually gave Abby a full story of her in the midst before Joel died, then maybe we would have had some sympathy for her. But it didn't happen. So instead, we get this bullshit ass story. How one moment with Ellie, next minute we Abby, it'd be Joel, and then next thing you know, it was a setup all along. Now Abby and her crew just attack Tommy and Joel, kill Joel's right in front of Abby. We played a little bit of Ellie during the game. The rest of it is all about Abby. She get new upgrades, new upgraded guns, all this other bullshit, and I don't understand why. So I'm letting you know right now, ladies and gentlemen, if they make part 3 and it's about Abby, save your money and do not buy that game. Do not buy this game. I pray that they cancel this game, bro. For real. I pray that they cancel this game because I do not want to see this game be greenlit. There's no story for you to tell. Now, if you want to do a multiplayer one, then fine. Do your thing. Do a little multiplayer for some of the people who do like multiplayer. Have different characters. If you want, you can play around and shoot. Do whatever the hell you want, but not a single player campaign game. Especially if it got something to do that we don't give a fuck about. Period. That's all I gotta say, guys. That's all I gotta say. Sorry for going off like that, but I'm just tired of people thinking that this game should happen when it shouldn't happen. It's a worthless game. It's worthless. Part 1 was the best. In our minds, part 1 existed. Part 2 never existed. Ever. The only way they can ever redeem themselves to that is everything that happened in part 2. In part 2 was just a dream. It's like what Biggie said. It was all a dream. All that other bullshit. That's going to be the end of this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Every single time I talk about different topics, I want to thank you guys so much for listening. Before we leave out, guys, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel at Desi D TV. Make sure you follow me on social media at Desi D Official. That is on Twitter and Instagram. This is your boy Desmond D. Saying I'm out, guys. Peace.